Well, welcome everybody. My name's Ian Broom. I'm the CEO of Fliplet, and let's get started on today's webinar, which is covering new features recently launched so far in 2020 and an exclusive roadmap preview of what we have planned for the rest of 2020 at Fliplet. During the webinar, if you could stay on mute, that would be helpful. And if you've got any questions, just post them into the chat inside Zoom. And my colleague Chris will be able to pick them up and answer them. And we will have time at the end for QA. Today's webinar will be about 45 minutes, but hopefully we can leave a bit of time at the end for Q&A. So we'll try to cover the content within that time. So for those of you who haven't met me before, my name's Ian Broom. I'm CEO and one of the two founders of Fliplet. And I work very closely with all parts of the business, but in particular the product team and our customers to determine the product roadmap, which is why I'm presenting today's session. So today we're going to have a short Fliplet overview, just in case anybody's joining today that hasn't worked with Fliplet or is considering purchasing Fliplet, but that will be very short. So hopefully that doesn't bore the rest of you who are already familiar with Fliplet. Then we're going to dive into the features that we've launched so far in 2020, the features that we have planned. And we're also going to spend a little bit of time at the end covering Fliplet's newest partners, which I think some of you may find interesting. Particularly if you're considering doing projects with Fliplet in the future, but just not sure how to necessarily proceed. And yes, then we'll have Q&A. So please, as we go through, post any questions you have into the Zoom chat, and we'll pick them up at the end. Okay, so a quick overview of Fliplet. So Fliplet is a prefab app builder. It produces web and mobile apps. Most of the apps that people are producing with Fliplet are entirely code-free. But where Fliplet's a little bit different is it does enable you to get into the code if you want and modify what is delivered by default. This gives you a couple of advantages, as we'll see later on when we go through the code features that we've been bringing to the table. Fliplet has a broad set of different capabilities that you can just drag and drop. This makes it very easy to get going and prototype apps or produce highly functional apps without touching code. But also all of these features can be modified using code. And the code that we utilize is just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So it's very easy to kind of take our standard features and modify them if you'd like to. As I mentioned, we support mobile and web applications. This means they can be used on mobile devices such as iOS and Android, and they can also be used on computer. You can distribute the apps just through a web browser if you want, or on the public app stores. But a lot of our larger clients prefer to distribute their apps privately through enterprise app stores. And very rarely, if somebody wants to privately distribute an app and doesn't have an enterprise app store, we also can offer a file distribution method. And Fliplet takes care of all of the infrastructure for you. So one of the things that is usually fun about producing apps is the design and the creative side of it. One of the things that isn't necessarily always fun is keeping it online and up to date. Fliplet takes care of all of that with a broad set of capabilities. We also meet all InfoSec standards that we've come across to date. So we have server-side encryption. We utilize Amazon Web Services on the back end. We have data centers in multiple jurisdictions to support data privacy and data storage legislation, etc. So basically, we do the heavy lifting for you, so you don't have to worry too much about worrying about servers and backend and updates. So let's dive into what's been launched so far by Fliplet in 2020. So let's start with the latest app template that we've launched. Now, this is an expense template, but the reality was that when we decided we were going to build an expense template, what we wanted to actually do was build a simple workflow example template. Now, I'm sure most people have dealt with expenses in their organization before. Therefore, most people are pretty familiar with how the expense process works, which, as you can see in this little flow diagram I've drawn, outlines how the expense template works. So somebody can submit an expense, usually a staff member. That triggers a notification to their manager. Their manager can then go in and approve or decline the expense. And if it's approved, it goes through usually to accounts for processing, and hopefully the person gets paid back for their expense. If it's declined, typically the staff member will have to provide additional information to the manager for that expense to be approved. So that's the flow. As you can see, a very simple 3-step flow. We've also incorporated a dashboard capability, which isn't shown here, which just summarizes all of the expenses in various stages in the current workflow. So you can quickly see, oh, okay, this is how many expenses have been approved so far, declined, or in kind of yet to be approved status, etc. The really exciting thing about this template is not necessarily an expense tracking template, because most organizations already have an expense tracking solution in place. The really exciting thing about this template is the fact that it gives you a very simple template with which to extend. So for example, you could go and incorporate, say, 2 or 3 additional stages. And we actually have another webinar planned for a couple of weeks' time where we're going to be presenting with a partner. And that webinar is going to completely focus around business process apps or workflow apps produced with Fliplet. So if this kind of workflow capability is of interest, I recommend maybe checking out that other webinar. As I say, this is really just a very simple example of a workflow. Of course, if you want to use it for expenses, it works. And we've actually been using it inside Fliplet now for a few months. We use it as our primary expense management system. In case you're thinking, why would I want an expense template? Have a look, because you may find the workflow capabilities useful. Next. Screen templates. So we launched an entirely new suite of templates that are designed to make not only Fliplet apps even faster and easier to build, but also to incorporate some of the latest and greatest app design, user interfaces, and user experiences. So as you can see here in the screenshot, I've kind of highlighted the content page examples, and there's quite a variety of different layouts. There's also some kind of simple layouts from a perspective that the images just span the whole width of the screen. But you can also see there on the far right, there's an image which is kind of floating next to the text, the little author's head. Fliplet screen templates was deployed after we upgraded our new drag and drop editor. And the drag and drop editor enables a lot more granular control. Some of my personal favorite screen templates are the ones that enable you to drop in maps, drop in charts, and these content pages, mainly because they just show you the kind of capabilities that you can now do with our drag and drop editor. If you'd like to be able to access any of these screen templates and you're a bit confused when you go into an app and you click add screen, you're not seeing this list, it could be that your app is still using the old editing system. In order to gain access to these, the easiest way is to go into Fliplet Studio, click Create New App, and select one of the templates from the list. That will then generate an app that's using the newer drag and drop system, which will in turn give you access to these screen templates. Other features that we've included into Fliplet so far in 2020, we upgraded Fliplet Viewer. For those of you who aren't familiar, Fliplet Viewer is our app for testing apps that's available in Google Play and on the Apple App Store. So that has now been upgraded. Not only does that have a new user interface, but it also gives you access to your app's analytics on the go. So let's say that you were running an event app and you wanted to see, well, how many people have engaged with it this morning. You could load up Fliplet Viewer, go to the analytics screen, select your event app, and be presented with the usage data for that app. I've mentioned the drag and drop editor already. So the key things about the drag and drop editor is we added a new container component. What a container component means is instead of just being able to drag and drop things like how Word works, where you drag and drop things very much in line with text, which is how our previous drag and drop editor worked. When we upgraded to a new drag and drop editor, we added this concept of a container component, and the container allows you to control how layouts are done in a much more sophisticated way. This enables you to for example, lay things out like 3 buttons in a row next to each other, or like the article on the far right of the screen, the screenshot, you can put a little image of somebody's head in, and then you could put text beside it. One of the code features that I'll mention in a little bit will actually allow you to take these layouts and make them dynamic with custom data. Which is also very useful. So then you can build very sophisticated layouts, but actually have them running off a database built in Fliplet. We've also upgraded our appearance settings. So one of the things that was lacking in our previous drag and drop editor was the ability to set colors and fonts and things like that, either to specific layout types, such as on smartphone, on tablet, or on web or computer. But also it gave you very restricted settings into what was just going to affect that single screen. So with the new drag and drop editor, we also got a new set of appearance options. This enables you to be very specific. So you can have one screen in the app that looks very different to all the other screens that are using similar layouts. We've recently enhanced push notifications. One of the key areas of push notifications that Fliplet has recently added is personalization, also known as segmentation. So what this means is that we now take users' preference data that they put into your apps and we store it on Fliplet server. Then when you're sending a notification, we enable you to query that user preference information and target notifications to users based on their preferences. And I'll show you an example of that in a little bit in a screenshot. We've also added scheduling, which is the other image you can see on the screen. So you can see it's saying send a notification to, and it's enabling you to specify who you're sending it to. The next screenshot in this flow is when do you want to send it. So this is very useful if, let's say that you need users to do something timely in your app and you want them to receive a push notification at a specific point in time. Scheduling enables you to basically say, deliver this message at 9 a.m. on Monday. We've also incorporated data source versioning, which basically enables users to, sorry, I'm just moving the Zoom window. It basically enables users to see old versions of their data sources and also restore them. This is quite useful. Previously, customers had to get in touch with us. Now people can self-serve. And then finally, our list from data source now has drag and drop reorder options for the detail view. So when you're configuring a list from data source and you're specifying the fields that you want to be displayed, you can now reorder those fields, which is really just a minor enhancement, but something that I'm sure anybody who spent time configuring lists from data source components would agree it's a very welcome enhancement because it was really frustrating before. Some features that we've recently incorporated that affect the apps as opposed to Studio. So we've enhanced the agenda list from data source view and we added search and filter. So that's the screenshot on the far right where you can see I've been able to filter by location. And in that case, I'm picking the hotel's restaurant and you can see all the agenda items that are occurring just in that restaurant. And I can also run a search for any specific keyword that would appear in the agenda listing, such as I know I want to see all of the sessions that deal with security, so I could run a search for security and it would show me all the matching results. So that's quite useful, particularly where you've got large or complicated agendas and you want to give your users the ability to quickly cut through quite a long list and find exactly what they're looking for. We've also incorporated a back-end data source update that has an impact on the performance of apps. Basically, we've added in the ability for apps to intelligently tell the server what information they have, and therefore the server will only send back the information that has changed. Where this is particularly relevant is where you have large data sources. So for example, we recently had a customer deploy a directory app to their organization. They had 6,000 staff. They don't have many changes every single day to the directory data. So what they did is they're using this feature and the app is receiving only the changes. So if out of 6,000 staff every day, 10 of those records are updated, then the app every time it loads will receive an update to its offline data stores of just the 10 records that have changed. This dramatically reduces the amount of data that has to be transferred to the app, but it also increases the speed of the app in which it can show the latest changes to the user faster. We've also recently incorporated mentions, or sometimes known as @mentions. If anybody's familiar with social media, in particular Twitter, you probably are familiar with this feature. This is a really exciting feature because it dramatically increases social engagement and utilization. So what this means is when I'm posting a message, I can say, @Chris, and Chris would, when I save that message, would receive a message notifying him, usually a push notification, notifying him that he has been mentioned in the app. and he can come in and he can see, oh, this is where Ian mentioned me, and he can see where he's mentioned, and hopefully engage and respond in an appropriate fashion. This is a feature that is currently been deployed into a couple of customers' apps, and it's something that we're currently wrapping up and going to be adding into a lot of app templates moving forwards. So expect to see this feature widely used across Fliplet apps, particularly if you're using social features in the future. And then finally, personalization, which I mentioned on the previous slide. And this slide, where it's got the edit your profile screenshot, is a good example of how the personalization features will work. So at the top, you can see the user gets to select, well, what channels do I want to be notified using? So in this case, they've chosen a text message and push notification, but they have not opted for email notifications. In the case of, say, an event app, you might ask the app to remind the user if 15 minutes before a session starts, that's a session that they've put into their personal agenda. They can receive a notification about it. And then they can also tell the app, notify me about these types of changes. So they've opted for anything, any news in relation to the event, any agenda changes, and any replies to my discussions, but they've not opted to be notified about new discussions. So based on this information, this all goes into a special profile area on Fliplet, a profile data store. And so when notifications are being sent, either automatically by the app or by users using the segmented notification feature, any of this data can be used to target the notification to a user. Hopefully this means less kind of broadcast messages are sent from Fliplet app and more targeted notifications are sent from Fliplet apps. Other features that have also been incorporated, particularly in relation to integrations, is we enhanced the data integration service. So the data integration service now has fairly easy integrations with SharePoint 2010, 2013, and 2016. We've also included the ability to trigger push notifications or potentially email and text messages as well automatically when certain data is imported. So we have a customer who imports market research information into their app every single week. They also trigger a notification to their users once a week, notifying them if new content is available in the app. And that is triggered by the data integration service when it imports the data. The data integration service has also been improved, so it can now very easily be linked up to a CSV file. What we found in working with a lot of customers over the last, say, 6 months is that many customers, if it's a custom internal system or a proprietary system or even a vendor provided system, they will often not have the ability to integrate directly with the database. And sometimes APIs are not available, or they don't have the internal knowledge about how to integrate with them. But many organizations still have the ability to export files, usually on a schedule, like once a day, once an hour, etc. And therefore, we've found that quite a few customers have preferred integrating Fliplet with a CSV file export, or in this case, the data integration service will import files, CSV files data, just because people find it easier to export. Just for those people who aren't familiar, the data integration service is a little piece of software that allows, that is designed to be installed on-premise by customers and allows customers to very easily integrate on-premise data stores, such as databases, files, or systems like SharePoint with Fliplet to automatically sync data. We've also recently had a bit of success in working with customers to embed common legal technologies such as Neota, Brighter, and Auto. So just this week, we've worked with one customer to integrate a Neota application into a Fliplet app. And we've also been testing Brighter integrations with other customers as well. So if you're using any of those systems and you'd be interested to learn about how they could be incorporated into Fliplet apps, just get in touch. We'll show you how. It's very easy. And then we've also had a bit of a reverse integration that I thought was worth mentioning. A partner who I'll mention in a little bit successfully integrated a Fliplet web app into HiQ. And once again, it was actually very easy to do the integration. And if anybody has any questions about how you could take a Fliplet app and embed it into HiQ, just get in touch. It's a very simple little piece of code. Speaking of code, we've got a couple of code-specific enhancements. So a part of Fliplet has been working tirelessly for at least the last 2 to 3 months, producing a rather large code library. So as you can see, the screenshot on the right is our code library. If anybody's interested, you can actually visit this right now. It went live today. You just need to visit code.fliplet.com. It's worth noting that this is not meant to be a replacement of our developer documentation. It is meant to be a code snippet library. So whereas we already have Fliplet low-level code documentation, our code library is meant to be almost examples of how you can use our low-level code features and apply them to apps. So as you can see there, it's got how to show and hide a form question, or how to save data to a Fliplet data source, or to check the user's location with GPS. And these are pieces of documentation that include little snippets of code that you can very easily copy and paste into apps and start tinkering if you're a developer. Fliplet has also been working on a feature that we're calling Fliplet helpers. The idea behind helpers is that they're little pieces of code that developers can produce and call through simple, like very, very, very simple HTML code. We're using helpers to rapidly deliver quizzes and decision trees to our customers at the moment. And helpers are a great way if you're a developer to basically produce a reusable function that you can drop into a Fliplet app and then teach a non-technical user how to use it wherever they want. Helpers can also be used to make a screen dynamically load content from a data source. So I was mentioning earlier that we have different article layouts. If you wanted those articles to be populated dynamically off a Fliplet data source, you could use helpers to bind the data from a Fliplet data source into an article screen. So if you'd like any guidance with how to use helpers, get in touch. We are actually upgrading helpers even further, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a moment. Unless you really need to use helpers version 2, it might be worth waiting for version 3, which will be due, I believe it's due at the end of this quarter. And then finally, for those customers who are using single sign-on, typically SAML2, we've enhanced our data mapping capabilities. What this means is that SAML2 or single sign-on can now return data to Fliplet, and Fliplet can utilize that data more effectively than before. Okay, so we've covered a bit about what Fliplet's done so far in 2020. Let me tell you about what we've got planned for the rest of 2020. And just to caveat everything I'm about to say, this is currently our best laid plans. We can't guarantee that we're going to do any of this, but we wouldn't have included it if it wasn't highly likely we were going to be doing this. So if anything that I speak about in the next section of the presentation interests you, just get in touch. Also, get in touch if you're interested, because it tells us that this is something that our customers want, as opposed to thinking this is something our customers want. The other thing that I would also say is due to our organization size, we can't necessarily, and I haven't included specific delivery dates. So again, if there's something you're specifically interested in, reach out and hopefully we can tell you when it's likely to be worked on. Okay, so features planned for Studio. Helpers version 3, which is the enhancement of the Helpers version 2 I was just referring to, is being improved to make it really, really easy for people with a low level of development capability, as in simple development skills, to be able to create their own drag and drop components inside Fliplet. We believe that this is going to be a really exciting feature, not only for Fliplet to be able to rapidly deliver capabilities to their customers, but also for in-house developers or partners who have technical skills to be able to rapidly produce their own components, making Fliplet even easier for non-technical people to use. We're also adding in additional security checks. So this will include a launch checklist that prior to launching an app, just verifies that a user launching an app has thought through all of the required security checks. We've noticed recently a couple of customers have deployed apps without realizing that they've had a configuration in a bad state from a security perspective, and we believe this feature will increase the quality and security resilience of apps going forward. We are enhancing the security controls and restrictions available for data sources. So what this means is that we'll be able to restrict specific users from doing certain actions in a data source. So for example, an admin user might be able to read and write to a data source, whereas a non-admin user may not be able to read and write to a data source. And we're also adding in new encryption capabilities for securing data. This is actually being worked on as we speak. One of the key benefits of the new security features is that it will utilize a key that Fliplet doesn't have access to, and Fliplet will not be able to decrypt the data that is encrypted with these new encryption features. We know that a lot of our customers want to use Fliplet apps to store sensitive data that they do not want us to have access to, and these new encryption features will give them that capability. We're also going to add the ability to cut, copy, and paste components between screens, which is a feature that I'm sure anybody who has extensively used Fliplet has found. It's annoying to have to rebuild your components multiple times, so we're working on that this quarter. We're also working on an organization dashboard. This is designed to give Fliplet Studio admin users the ability to see everything that is being done in their Fliplet account across all of their apps. So you can see a bit of a screenshot here from the mockup we're using internally. It'll include app session and studio session data, and it'll include information about new users, apps created, apps edited, and apps published. So it'll hopefully give people a very quick way to view what their organization is doing with Fliplet. We're also adding in Fliplet Studio single sign-on, which enables kind of an organization to use their organization username or password instead of a separate Fliplet account to log into Studio. We're also exploring the option to limit access to users being able to publish apps in Studio without an org admin approving it first. So a little bit of an approval workflow before apps can be published. And then finally, we're intending to optimize the data source manager inside Fliplet Studio to better manage large data sets. At the moment, it's the Fliplet data source manager is okay as long as your data isn't too complicated. As soon as it gets too complicated, we're aware that there are quite a few limitations. So we intend to replace it with an entirely new system that will be much, much better at managing large data sets. App enhancements. So I've already mentioned personalized notifications. We're going to incorporate this into most templates. So although we've got the feature at the moment, it requires some customization to incorporate it. Very soon, this will just be a standard feature that you'll see in all of our templates. We are also intending to add a feature that makes it a lot easier to get your users up and going with apps, which is a built-in user import and account setup feature. So particularly with event apps or communications apps or news apps, where you want to onboard a lot of users very quickly, users generally want to import their users and then quickly notify them, these are your account details. That historically has been a manual task. We're now going to make it as automated as possible. So you'll be able to upload a list, usually a CSV file of your users, and then you'll be able to click one button and basically say generate a password for them and send them an email notifying them what their password is. We're also adding a bulk email capability into apps. This will enable you to more effectively promote your app, share account details, and notify users about changes. This will also, in the future, probably support a version of notifications as well. But we're focusing very much around email because we believe that email is the way in which most people are introduced to apps for the first time, and that is currently a process that requires quite a lot of work from our customers, and it really shouldn't. So once this feature is available, you'll be able to upload your users, set up the template you want to use to promote your app, and then just click a button and the app will actually take care of promoting itself. We're going to introduce push notifications in web apps sometime this year, and gamification is also coming to a lot of our new app templates. Gamification is really about incentivizing people to do more with your app, and you can see a bit of an example of a gamification screen on the right. The list from data source component is getting some pretty serious upgrades. It's one of our most used components, so I've decided to dedicate an entire slide to this. So not only is it getting the ability to have new design settings, which means you can be a lot more specific. If you don't like rounded corners, you don't like how certain things look, you'll be able to change all of that very soon. We're also going to incorporate new types of filters. So at the moment, you can only filter on values that are in the data. Soon, we're going to have the ability for you to filter on a date range and a number range. So you'll be able to say, show me all of the entries this month, for example. You'll also be able to filter based on the current logged in user, which is great for creating workflow apps. Show me all the tasks that I have to do, as opposed to show me all the tasks available in the app that I then have to filter down. And then finally, you'll also be able to hide and show empty records, which is a requested feature, because sometimes deliberately excluding information is actually what you're trying to find, or sometimes you don't want to see where information hasn't been excluded. We're also going to allow people to change the date format. This is particularly well requested by different customers in different places in the world who have different preferences about how their dates are displayed to their users. We're also going to give you the ability to sort the results in your lists from directly within the app. We're intending to add a multi-select option. The purpose of multi-select is that you'll be able to select multiple records and then perform an action against them. So the action could be delete them. The action could be edit. The action could be select multiple people and do something else with them, such as create a new contact list from the people I've selected. So we believe that that's going to open up a whole suite of new capabilities as well. We're going to incorporate into the agenda version of the list from data source the personalized agenda option. So the way this works is that you can optionally provide data when you upload a user about which sessions have to be in their agenda. And then the agenda screen will make sure that they cannot see any that are not assigned to them. Lots of customers with complicated agendas really like this feature, but at the moment it's a code-enabled feature. Soon it will be basically a tick box. One of the things that we've found as the list from data source is getting more and more use is that people are putting more and more data into it. So we're going to incorporate a kind of a load as the user scrolls feature, very similar to what you see in a lot of social media sites. So as you scroll content, it will kind of get to a point and then load more. We believe that this will dramatically increase the speed that list from data source can load. And then we're also going to include some new data display types. So this will be a map. Where you've got an address, you'll be able to say, display this as a little map. You'll be able to display data within an accordion or a collapsible area. And you'll also be able to display multiple images or files in the future as well, making it very powerful for kind of acting as a catalog or a data collection of not just information that you've uploaded into Fliplet, but also information that you've uploaded as attached files to a record. We're also continuing to improve our integration. So as I've mentioned, we're improving encryption in relation to the data integration service. And we're also going to offer a feature whereby a key can get generated by a customer and passed without touching Fliplet directly to their users via single sign-on. So we're really excited by this because it takes Fliplet security to an even higher level where not only does Fliplet not have access to the key, but actually it's literally impossible unless you guys give us a login for us to ever be able to decrypt your data. So we're really getting serious about our encryption capabilities. We're intending to add a suite of new screen templates. So we're intending to add some new menus. We're going to incorporate a whole suite of different forms and data capture screen templates, such as surveys, feedback forms, polls, profile creation screens, and create new news or discussion screens. We're also going to be improving our dashboards or data visualization capabilities. So we've already got the ability for you to put in charts, but we're also going to extend that with metrics and also tables. And you can see a screenshot on the right-hand side there of the current Fliplet viewer analytics. This is literally taken just minutes before this webinar, and it shows metrics along the bottom. So you can see 262 sessions of this app, and you can see a chart there rendering the usage. So this is the type of capability we're going to be building into a screen template that you'll be able to drop into your app. We're also going to bring in a kind of a calendar view. So if you want to display event information that is not suitable for an agenda, which is currently rendered more like a list, you'll be able to use our calendar capability. And we're going to add in an advanced table capability, which we have done for a few customers to date, but it's definitely not an off-the-shelf feature. That means that you'll be able to drop in a table which can be powered by a data source, and you'll be able to then offer search, filter, and order capabilities on top of it. Moving on to app templates, we've got quite a lot of new app templates coming out that will include a lot of the features that I've mentioned, but also bring some new specific features. So the marketing and emergency management template is really a content template that is designed to either support emergency scenarios or promotion. You'd be surprised how similar these templates are going to be, which is why I've grouped them together. Although we will be producing two separate templates with different designs and just subtly different functionality. But the primary purpose of these two templates is to share information, keep users informed of changes through notifications and emails if you want, and offer a suite of interactive tools such as quizzes, assessments, decision trees, and checklists are also one of the primary features. And you can see on the right-hand side what the quiz will look like when you get to the results screen. We're also working on a new team comms or team communications template. This is all about news, offering personalized notifications. We're going to support multiple languages for the news because we're aware most of our clients operate in multiple countries. And although English might be their international language, it's important to also support local languages. And deep usage reports, which is something we've found a lot of internal communications functions lack. They don't really know how their content's getting used. We're going to help them get full visibility over who's looking at what and what are they doing with it. And then we're also intending to produce an e-learning or an education app. So this is going to focus around educating people through apps. It will also work on computer as well. A couple of people have asked, well, is this just going to replace our learning management system? I don't think that we're intending to build a learning management system replacement. This is just useful if you want to build, say, a customer-facing or a small internal e-learning tool. It will support courses that can have multiple lessons, and it will include very sophisticated dashboards that will cover the course performance as well as individual performance. So you can see what's the average pass rate of my course, but you can also see, you know, how's John Smith's individual performance across all of the lessons and courses that he's done. We also are upgrading our event or training app templates. I say event/training because a lot of our customers are actually using our event apps to support training events, such as classroom-based training. Fliplet's event solution has really evolved into a whole app suite. So it's not just about single events, but we're also offering a multi-event app capability now. We also have event management, such as promotion, RSVP, managing who has and hasn't applied, allowing them to attend the event, things like this, and also event promotion. So this is about sending out emails, sending out reminders, delivering notifications or emails at the right time. We've got a suite of new capabilities coming into our events apps, polls, enhanced agenda, linking to sessions and floor plan. And you can see an example of an agenda screen linking to speaker information on the right-hand side. We're also adding in user upload and promotion that I mentioned earlier, and an attendee check-in and CSV import and export feature to accelerate getting users into your app. And then finally, hot off the press, and I'm sure some of you have already received an email from Chris, we're planning to produce a return to office app. This will include things like information that my organization wants me to pay attention to in relation to returning to the office after COVID-19 or after lockdown. It'll enable office-specific information. So the Belgium office and the UK office do not have to include the same guidance. It will include office booking capabilities to help manage self-isolation. We expect most offices will not be able to support the full number of staff that they previously supported due to self-isolation rules, such as keeping 2 meters apart. Therefore, we anticipate that the capacity of offices might be 50% of what they previously were, and therefore people will need to proactively book before they can go to the office. Otherwise, there's a risk too many people will show up to the office and will be over the kind of advised number of people in the office space. To also help manage how many people are in different spaces within offices, we're going to offer a check-in, check-out feature. This will use QR code scanning via the app. So it'll be very easy to just scan into the breakout space or canteen where only 10 people can be and then scan out. And this will all be tracked in a dashboard. So people who are managing the office space can ensure that if they are over the number of people allowed in a space, it's only for a temporary period of time and they can take appropriate action. Also, if there's any auditing requirements related to COVID-19 returning to the office, our app will track all of the data required to make that reporting easy. When people join the app, we're going to ask them to make sure that they understand certain rules before they're allowed to continue to use the app and potentially book office spaces. This is going to help organizations ensure that all staff who return to the office understood the rules that they need to follow. And we're also going to track staff working status. So for example, I'm working from home, I'm going to the office, I'm currently unwell or I have other obligations and therefore maybe I'm only working part-time. As you can see, this is going to include quite a lot of capabilities that we believe will really help our customers get back to the office. And then finally, I'm aware that I've run over, so I apologize, but I'll just race through this next section. So we've partnered with a number of new organizations. Why is Fliplet creating a partner program? This is to offer specialists with legal knowledge and complementary services that Fliplet may not offer to our customers, and also to offer different price points and different services that we do not offer, such as project management, maintenance, integration, content writing, etc. A quick FAQ about partners. So if you are interested in any of the partners I'm about to mention, just reach out and contact them directly. We're more than happy to facilitate an introduction, but you do not have to go through us if you don't want to. There is no preset costs with working with any of our partners. You just get in touch with them and have a conversation with them directly about prices. They'll all have different pricing structures. So I encourage you to just engage and negotiate like you would normally. Will Fliplet charge me for producing your app with partners? No. Your current licensing agreement will cover you for whatever apps you produce with partners. So for those of you who are already on an unlimited app plan, I don't anticipate that you would incur any additional costs. What agreement do we have in place with these partners? We have nothing formal. This is an informal partnership. There's no kind of commercials that are between us and our partners. So anything that you agree with the partner stays between you and the partner. There's no obligation for the partner to tell us anything about what you're doing with them, and vice versa. We also have no obligation to tell the partners anything that you're doing with us. And will we support the partner if you decide to work with them? Yes, we will treat them just like we treat you, and they will get the same quality of support and care that we offer you. So without further ado, let me run you through a couple of the partners. So the first one is Nathan Wilkins, who runs 1404, which is a marketing and BD agency. And previously he's worked with Bird & Bird and Taylor Wessing. Some people on this call might actually know Nathan. So Nathan, a while ago, ventured out on his own and offers all the capabilities that you can see. If you're interested in engaging kind of any support around marketing and BD apps, it might be worth getting in touch with Nathan. He also has experience producing apps with Fliplet at the firms mentioned. Ethel, which is an innovation consulting firm for legal professionals. These guys are a little bit different to most of the people in this partner program in that they're focused in Belgium and the Netherlands and Luxembourg. So if you've got parts of your organization that are in those countries and you think, geez, it would be useful for them to have some local support in relation to Fliplet, it might be worth getting in contact with Dan. And as you can see, they offer a broad set of consulting and legal specific services. Lisi is a US-based full service marketing agency for law firms. They have experience in-house working at law firms, as well as quite a few of their staff are former attorneys. And they're well suited to working with firms that need to do additional marketing capabilities but don't have the internal resources. And they offer a broad set of capabilities. Meridian West is a UK-based partner, and these guys specialize in market research, thought leadership, branding, and positioning. They already work with some of our customers, which is why we've partnered with them. I just realized this capability list is actually wrong. So I will update this and send around an updated set of slides afterwards. KV Labs, Karina is a compliance and legal tech specialist, having worked in a number of legal tech businesses before venturing out on her own. She can assist with a number of legal tech kind of requirements. She can also assist with project definition and project management. And then finally, Sente Advisors, again, US-based. Dan and his colleagues are all ex-NEODA and HiQ, or HiQ, I should say, and they specialize in using different pieces of legal tech to solve legal tech solutions. They are actually the partner that did the integration between Fliplet and HiQ, and they did that because a US firm asked them to. So these guys have quite a bit of experience already integrating Fliplet with other solutions. Yeah, so if you'd like to talk to them, reach out. They're very well suited to working with innovation teams. So yeah, if any of those partners are of interest, feel free to get in touch with them. And if you'd like Chris or I to introduce you to them, just get in touch with us and we will. So without further ado, are there any questions that you'd like covered? And I'm aware that I've run over, so if you need to drop, I understand. So I can see that there's been a couple of questions asked. Okay, so good question here is, can we migrate an app to the new drag and drop so that we can access the new screen templates? Yes, you can. Just get in touch with our customer success team and they can tell you how to do that. Another question about, in a large data set where items are loaded from the server as people scroll, will the search feature look through the items on the server that have not been loaded yet? Yes, they will. So our search will still cover the entire data set. We just won't necessarily render all of the records at once, which is how it currently works. Another question, for the cut, copy, paste feature, can I copy to different apps and will it keep the data? Yes, so that's exactly the intention. So the kind of copy paste interface that I've seen designs of will not be the usual kind of copy paste kind of thing that you see in Word, because usually you're just copying and pasting very simple capabilities. If you're cutting or copying and pasting a component that has a data set and quite a lot of sophisticated settings in it, it will actually pop up a little custom interface built for Studio and ask, where do you now want to put this? So it's almost like an assisted kind of copy feature, I think might be a better way to describe it. And yes, it will keep all the settings. Other questions? Yeah, so the other question here is, are we looking to create a portal for clients to be to put code snippets that they have created and share with others? Yeah, so I think we've already kind of got a method where you can do that. What I generally suggest is, and we do this internally, we have an app where it's kind of like almost a code library app. The reason why a code library app is good is because, unlike the code library that Fliplet has documented, which is kind of generic, what we find is that a lot of customers have specific ways that they would like to implement the code snippets. And therefore, those code snippets really benefit from including components and maybe data sets or data examples that are relevant to how that organization is using messages. So, sorry, is using code. So I think one way that an organization can easily incorporate kind of their own code library is almost just to create an app that they share amongst the technical people in their organization, and each screen can be kind of a different set of code. And yes, we will be making this video available afterwards, so if you'd like to share this with your colleagues, you can. Okay, so I think I've managed to go through all of the questions that were listed. Thank you very much for those of you who asked questions. I really appreciate it. Just before we wrap up, I just thought I'd mention our upcoming webinars. So next week, we have a return to the office webinar. I just realized that that's not on the 6th of May. That date is incorrect. It's actually next Wednesday. Today is the 6th of May. So next Wednesday, we have a return to the office webinar where we're going to specifically talk about how organizations are managing the return to the office based on the conversations that we've been having with about 40 different law firms over the last week. We also have an upcoming case study focused webinar called How Law Firms Are Using Prefab Apps. That's on the 13th of May. Although I think that actually the return to office one might be taking over that. And then we've got, yeah, thanks.
You're correct, Ian. Yeah.
And then we've got an optimized business process with apps. So this is the webinar I mentioned earlier about business process app or workflow apps. And if you'd like to learn more about how you can use Fliplet to support business processes, that webinar with Sente Advisors, one of the partners I mentioned, is going to be on the 19th of May. And you can access all of these webinars by going to fliplet.com/webinars and clicking on the link. It'll take you through to the relevant page where you can find out more information and register. Okay, well, that concludes our webinar today. Thank you very much, everybody, for coming. I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll share a recording of this once it's uploaded. I hope this has been informative. If you have any questions about the features that I've listed or you'd like any more information, please get in touch. And I hope you have a fantastic day. Stay safe.